I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that are going to be there a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the two games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Happy Friday. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish back with you for our Friday edition of the show, which includes plenty of recap and preview of the National Basketball Association. What an incredible performance from one player in the NBA last night. We'll tell you who. Also, Simon Applebaum is with us from the podcast Tomorrow Will Be Televised. The Run for the Roses is tomorrow. What will the coverage look like? Simon will tell us. Also, guest contributors, of course, from Legal Sports Report, and my co-host on Saturday mornings, Davis Mattek, will be with us to talk some NBA as well. So plenty to get to here on the show. Also updates on Major League Baseball and the National Hockey League as well. But let's get started with last night's game in the NBA, and the series does come to completion. A back-and-forth game once again in favor of the New York Knicks. They beat the Philadelphia 76ers by a final of 118-115. Philly was 3-point favorites in the game. It didn't matter. The Knicks won outright. Philly did have a lead later into the game, but no one, and I mean no one, could stop Jalen Brunson. Another incredible performance for him. 41 points, 12 assists, and 3 rebounds. Joel Embiid did his best. He had 39, 2 assists, and 13 rebounds. And, of course, Embiid injured for the majority of the season, ended up coming back and playing at a semi-high level, I think that he would say, but last night obviously played great. Embiid, after the game, talked about playing, coming back, but obviously recognizing just how well the New York Knicks played against them.
Their sense after all that time and all those attempts of what kind of team and what kind of players you need to have here to make it
That's
work.
not my job. That's those guys. That's what they get paid for. Our job is to get better as basketball players. Every single year we find a way. I found a way to get better. He's gotten so much better, and I think there's another step he can even take. Some of the guys in the locker room, they've gotten better. So I think, every single year I've gotten better. So I'm excited to, keep working on my game, myself, and, keep getting better. So, but, when it comes to, guys around, I like our group of guys. I think we have, an amazing group of guys. Obviously, it didn't work out this year, but we also played a great team. The New York Knicks, they did a great job, and, they played together for a long time. So I like our guys. Obviously, they got a lot of decisions to be made, but I think the group of guys that we had this year, they were amazing, and I still believe that, if everything went right, we had a chance. So, but everything didn't go right.
Competitive series at the very least between the Knicks and Philadelphia 76ers. Knicks are moving on. Now, the Indiana Pacers are moving on as well. The Milwaukee Bucks did their best without Giannis in this series. It was not enough. Damian Lillard did play last night. He had 28 points, but not nearly enough. Indiana wins this one going away. 120-98 is the final. And guess who is headed to the second round of the NBA playoffs? It is the Indiana Pacers. Go figure that. Finally, a bounce-back game for Tyrese Halliburton and company. The Pacers were 5-point favorites. They won by a lot more. The game also went just over the total as well of 217.5. There's been a lot of questions about Damian Lillard and the combo of him and Giannis being together. And Lillard talked about getting ready to play, also dealing with the Achilles injury in his return.
It's just around-the-clock treatment pretty much. I did it last game of the season against Orlando. I kind of strained it a little bit, and then that whole week leading up to game one, I didn't practice pretty much the whole week. I was out literally until Saturday. So I think Saturday was the first day that I did stuff like with the team on the floor, just moving up and down. So I was nervous about it until Saturday, and I finally felt good, and we kind of got it under control for game one, game two, and most of game three, and then into regulation in game three, I think it was, tried to steal a ball and just did it all over again pretty much. So it was back to square one with that.
In the end, Giannis not playing, even with Damian Lillard just not enough. The Bucks with another early exit in the NBA playoffs. Will it be an exit tonight for the Los Angeles Clippers as the game is on the line and they will not have Kawhi Leonard on the road in Dallas? Dallas 7.5-point favorites tonight to close out their series with the Clippers. They're trailing 3-2 in the series. James Harden probably can't play any worse than he played last game. Probably fair to say that Westbrook can't play any worse than he played last game. I would expect maybe a better game tonight. We'll see if they can keep it close. Meanwhile, last night the Milwaukee Bucks game got out of hand in the end, especially for Patrick Beverley, who was seen throwing a ball at a fan who threw the ball back, and then he threw it back again and hit somebody in the head. My gosh, 2:32 to go in the game. Not a great look for Patrick Beverley, who also after the game refused to answer a reporter's questions for not listening to his podcast. I can't make that up. This is true. Okay, as we have talked about this week on the show, Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch not going to miss a second of the NBA playoffs. He leads practice just one day after his surgery for his patella tendon. In the portion open to practice to the media, Finch was walking around on crutches, interacting with players. The Wolves have left the building. They're headed to Denver for game one of their Western Conference semifinal series this weekend against the Nuggets. They certainly will be up against it, but if there was ever a team that could compete with Denver, maybe this indeed is the one. Meanwhile, tonight, a pivotal game between the Cleveland Cavaliers and Orlando Magic. Magic 3.5-point favorite against the Cavs. Jared Allen, meanwhile, of Cleveland, did not practice, but has a rib injury. They play tonight in Orlando. If Cleveland's going to win, they may need Allen, or do they sit him out and just hope for a Game 7? Kind of strange situation there, but we'll keep an eye on it. Okay, Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, good news for him as an individual. He will not be charged with an assault claim that was recently brought to light over the last 6 months. Dallas police will not pursue the sexual assault charges with a alleged accusation that occurred back in 2017, with a woman saying that he assaulted her in the back of an SUV in a strip club parking lot. Dallas police said, we're not going to look into this any further. The Kansas City Chiefs have declined their fifth-year option on a very popular name that hasn't done a ton in the NFL. Kadarius Toney, disappointing 2023 season, lined up off sides. Everybody talks about that. Did catch a few big touchdowns for Kansas City coming over from the Giants a couple of years ago. 27 catches, 169 yards. Kadarius Toney will be looking for work in a couple of years. So will Najee Harris. With the market down on running backs, the Steelers have declined their fifth-year option on Harris as expected. They're trying to work out a deal potentially after the season, but running backs in general are not even getting paid $5 million, let alone $7 in the National Football League. And meanwhile, how about this story? Pittsburgh Steelers coordinator floated an idea that Justin Fields, their new backup quarterback or starter, depending on how things work out in training camp, could actually return kickoffs with the new rules. So we'll see what happens in training camp in the preseason if this ends up happening. National Hockey League, we got a Game 7. The Toronto Maple Leafs have forced it. They beat the Boston Bruins by a final of 2-1. Austin Matthews didn't even play in this game, so we're headed for arguably the best Game 7 in sports in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Kirby Smart, meanwhile, gets a new contract. He's the highest paid coach in the history of college football. 10 years, $130 million. He was scheduled to earn $10 million this year under his old contract. His salary increase will be $13 million annually and will be guaranteed through 2033. He can also earn some performance bonuses, $1.55 million each year. He's entering his ninth season as Georgia's head coach. And of course, they've won back-to-back championships and was incredible all the way up through the SEC championship last year. The New York Mets have called up their fifth-ranked prospect. His name is Christian Scott. He's going to pitch against Tampa Bay on Saturday as the Mets need some pitching help. And also, for those of you who are interested in streaming Major League Baseball games this season on Sunday morning, like you did last year with Peacock, it looks like, according to The Athletic, that Roku is going to take over that streaming service. Previously, again, on NBC's Peacock, nothing official yet, but it looks like Roku will be the next agreement pending them actually signing and putting this to paper. So that's the latest going on right now in news, notes, information, sports wagering info. But coming up next, we've got Davis Mattek in the house to recap what happened last night with Philadelphia and New York, Milwaukee and Indiana, and preview the games tonight and coming up this weekend as well. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll take a quick time out and be back with more previewing the NBA right after this break. So it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. We'll give you some positions next. Don't go away.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I kind of go back and forth with where all of this should land on the PGA Tour. I think individual 72 holes is what I really like for professional golf, for big-time events.
Like, we're going to make this all about teams. We're going to have home games, and you know, that's going to be the focus of this competition. I don't think that works if you have guys that are still trying to play at the highest level on an individual front.
Only on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily, at plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. If I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, I would have really figured it would have been the other way around. But the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
They have a former executive that they claim was stealing proprietary information from them and passing it along. Initially, it looks like DraftKings is on the right side of this.
They were really heated about what they said, that he left the company right before the Super Bowl, allegedly took all this confidential information with him about the most important customers, the bettors that spend the most with the company.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Philadelphia and New York, these two teams matching up. They tried to save face in Philadelphia by buying some extra tickets for fans, and it seemed to work. A lot of Philly fans did show up last night. The only problem was the Knicks have a player that Philadelphia had no answer to. Let's bring in Davis Mattek, who joins us. And certainly there's been some great playoff performances, Davis, and Tyrese Maxey's been great in this series. Joel Embiid was great last night, but Jalen Brunson, the addition to Brunson in the NBA, Davis, I don't know, where would you put that? Like, in terms of, last decade, 20 years? Like, his importance in terms of an acquisition the last couple of years, LeBron maybe going back to Cleveland to win a championship. I mean, I don't know. This has got to be right up there because without him, the Knicks are doing nothing.
The Knicks are doing absolutely nothing because it doesn't matter. I mean, we should just give credit to the Knicks. They've done a really great job rebuilding their roster after sort of that mire that they were stuck in the early 2010s. Brunson, I mean, I would say, one, he is the best New York Knick since the 70s, since Clyde and Walt. I mean, he really is an unbelievable player. Yeah, I mean, he is the most impactful free agent acquisition since either, the big three in Miami or LeBron and Kyrie playing in Cleveland. I think it really, he took the Knicks from a roster that could, maybe be a scrappy 6th seed or whatever to, look, the Celtics definitely don't want to play the Knicks. They can, they can have all the bravado, but without Porzingis, the Knicks are like a pretty toe-to-toe match versus them. And he just has been incredible. I mean, the guy plays 45 minutes a night, takes every shot, runs every pick and roll. There is no secondary ball handler on this team. There's no one who can shoulder that load. We don't even have Julius Randle, right? Their actual highest paid player. This is the craziest thing. The highest paid player on the Knicks roster hasn't played in 2 months. They played, Craig, last night they played 2 guys off the bench. Mitchell Robinson got 18 minutes and Miles McBride got 9 minutes. Just unbelievable amount of effort from their starters.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of comparisons in terms of that. You're right. The big three in Miami, when those guys came there, that's a really good example. I've heard, not the same size, but Kevin Garnett going to Boston when he did. This is an all-time acquisition in the history of the NBA, without a doubt. And he's playing great. And who knows, maybe they win the next round too. Okay, so look, the Bucks were just really shorthanded. They won 2 games in the series. I don't think anybody expected them to win the series once you saw that first game play out. You just were like, all right, this may go a little bit long, but inevitably Indiana's going to win. I guess what I would say is, and we'll get to the Bucks in a minute, is that my faith in Indiana has been a little bit lost, Davis. I thought maybe they could go deep into the playoffs, but they're just so on and off every game. I don't know if they played like that during the regular season. I guess you would have to tell me. Credit to them. They haven't been here in a long time, so maybe we should start with that. But I do think it's a 1 round and done for the Pacers.
I think you are probably right. The big deal for them has been that Tyrese Halliburton was so good to begin the season. He was looking like All-NBA. Actually, really for the first 2 months of the season before he injured his hamstrings, Tyrese Halliburton was looking like he was probably going to be first team All-NBA. He was shooting unbelievable from 3. He still led the NBA in assists. What ended up happening was he gets this hamstring injury, and it kind of has just taken away some of his juice. And they made the trade for Pascal Siakam, which I think right now they can look at it and be like, that was justified. We probably don't end up being the 6th seed, and we definitely don't end up beating even a shorthanded Bucks team without Siakam. He was really good for most of the series. He had a stinker in game 3. But they're very young. They don't really have the horses. Siakam is the only guy on the roster who has really played in playoff games. Miles Turner was really bad last night. They ended up actually going to Obi Toppin. One of the craziest things is that actually the best guy in the series, really, for the Pacers has been TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell has come off the bench and been awesome in all these games. He was incredible last night. He was a plus 22, 20 points, 9 assists, 4 steals in only 23 minutes for McConnell. Now, how much can you play TJ McConnell against a Boston Celtics team? He's probably going to get ran off the court. I think it is one and done for the Pacers, but they have a nice core. They got a lot of playoff experience. They went toe to toe with the Bucks. They ended up beating them. They're going to get even more playoff experience now. And I think they can definitely sell free agents and other stars come and play with Halliburton. Come and play with Siakam. We want to win here in Indiana.
I thought we would have a Game 7, at the very least, 1 in the East, 1 in the West. There's a possibility we get none. Tonight, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 4-point underdogs in Orlando. This series Davis just gone back and forth. The Magic so close in the last game against them. They're 4-point favorites tonight. Is Jared Allen not playing a major factor in the game here in the end? Can the Magic win regardless? I feel like there's going to be a minute left in the game. These two teams are going to be tied.
It feels crazy to say, but they're probably better, the Cavs are, without one of Mobley or Jarrett Allen in the game because they are just so stuck together on offense. There just is no space. We saw Okoro started at power forward. They played Marcus Morris 26 minutes off the bench. And guess what happened? Donovan Mitchell was able to get a ton of shots off, 10 3-pointers for Max Strus. Okoro was in there shooting threes. They just have much more space. Now, I'm going against the Magic here because the Magic, yeah, they have this. They are one of the best defenses in the NBA with a super young roster, very impressive. I think of all the teams in the NBA, all 30 teams, I think they have the worst guards. I think like the lottery teams, like literally like the Pistons and the Wizards have better guard play than, and it's not, no disrespect to Jalen Suggs and these guys. They just do not create enough shots.
All right, finally, tonight, I feel like we're going to get a little hero ball with the Clippers and Mavericks tonight. Dallas up to 8-point favorites. I got to think Harden's going to come up tonight big. I got to think Westbrook is going to play better. I don't know if they're going to win or not, but they looked so bad in the last game. And usually I like to go against the grain with that. So I probably would look to the Clippers tonight, sort of how I look to the Lakers, covering a couple games but losing in the end. What do you think about tonight's game at Dallas?
This series just feels destined to go to a Game 7. I'm taking the Clippers. I think we see a pretty good James Harden game, but I think we get a real playoff key performance, 32 points, 8 assists, 11 rebounds, makes 5 3-pointers. I do think we see this one go to Game 7 and the Mavericks fall to the Clippers tonight.
Plus 265 on the money line. Thanks, Davis. See you tomorrow.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I kind of go back and forth with where all of this should land on the PGA Tour. I think individual 72 holes is what I really like for professional golf, for big time events.
We're gonna make this all about teams. We're gonna have home games, and that's gonna be the focus of this competition. I don't think that works if you have guys that are still trying to play at the highest level on an individual front.
Only on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily, at plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. If I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, I would have really figured it would have been the other way around. But the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access. Only on SportsGrid.
They have a former executive that they claim was stealing proprietary information from them and passing it along. Initially, it looks like DraftKings is on the right side of this.
They were really heated about what they said, that he left the company right before the Super Bowl, allegedly took all this confidential information with him about the most important customers, the bettors that spend the most with the company.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. A little bit of breaking news for you as NFL Network is reporting that Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver, free agent, will sign a one-year contract with the Miami Dolphins. So Beckham Jr. will head to South Florida and, according to this report, make over $8 million for the upcoming season. A one-year deal with the Dolphins for Odell Beckham Jr., one of the remaining free agents left in the National Football League. All right, now let's go back to the NBA for a minute last night. Now, a very odd set of circumstances, to say the least, for Milwaukee Bucks player Patrick Beverley, who at the end of the game, with 2 minutes left, decided it would be in his best interest, regardless of what the fans are saying, keep in mind, right behind the bench, throwing a basketball at a fan. The fan caught the basketball, threw it back to Patrick Beverley. Beverley threw it then back at a fan again and hit somebody in the head. So naturally, he is going to be suspended, I would expect, for an extended period of time, because this is, something that you can't do. And now, naturally, the fan is well within their right to make some phone calls and, play that up as best as they can. Let's just put it that way. But then even things got more bizarre after the game when Beverley was asked about the game and everything else. He decided to tell a reporter who was on site that he was not going to participate in questions from her because she did not subscribe to his podcast. Take a listen.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Before I finish. Yeah. You subscribe to my pod?
Do I subscribe to you? I do not subscribe.
So you can't interview me then. No
Okay,
disrespect.
Well, Jamal is here.
You subscribe? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Again, there were a couple times within a bucket or two. In previous games, y'all have been able to kind of get over that hump, or maybe. Was it anything they did in particular, or was it just one of those where the bucket didn't go down, there wasn't the stop, they made one? What kind of prevented that you all from being able to get over, kind of like you have in the past?
You'll move that mic, please, or just get out the circle, please, for me, please, ma'am. If you're not subscribed to my pod, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, whatever. One of the strangest things I've seen in a postgame in a long time. This is not going to go over well. Not going to end well for Patrick Beverley there. Okay, now let's head over to social media as Christian DeBlock, who normally joins us on the show, has got his thoughts on a lot of different things happening, and we'll start off with the latest in the National Basketball Association. And Christian's focus today, as we begin, is on a team that's honestly struggled in the playoffs in the NBA for years and years, trying to get over the top. That is the Phoenix Suns, with another early exit for Kevin Durant and company. We find out from Christian what's next.
The Suns are a solid team. I'll give them that. But if Matt Ishbia decides to run it back with the same starting five, they're accomplishing nothing significant next season. The big three of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal sounds great on paper. But in order to win a championship, you need the right complementary pieces. The problem is, the Suns don't have a natural point guard. Sure, Devin Booker can operate in that role, but he was at his best playing alongside Chris Paul 3 years ago, finishing 4th in MVP voting. Bradley Beal just doesn't fit next to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. We saw that this season. Cut your losses, take the shorter end of the deal, go get yourself a point guard and some wing help, and you'll be okay. Otherwise, the Suns are going to be a first-round exit again. Back to you, Craig.
All right, thanks very much, Christian. We'll check back with Christian next week. It's time now for our latest update on the Run for the Roses. To give us a preview as to who could win at Churchill Downs tomorrow, our very own Cam Stewart has a preview and some choices for you to take positions on at the Derby.
Hey, everybody, I'm Cam Stewart, and the 150th edition of the Kentucky Derby goes down this Saturday, 6:57 Eastern, from Churchill Downs in Kentucky. What a 20-horse race we got. This one is wide open. When you're looking at the talent, Fierceness is obviously the best horse. He's a 2-to-1 favorite right now. He can win by 17 lengths, but sometimes this horse doesn't show up, and that's very dangerous as a betting favorite. Sierra Leone is the second favorite at 3-to-1, and this horse has looked great in early workouts. He's actually one of the best-looking horses, and a lot of the people in the know like this horse to win. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper and take the 4-horse Chasing Freedom at a value price at 10-to-1. Let me tell you about this horse. We got great connections. Flavian Pratt, one of the best jockeys in the world, and improving all the time. That's very important for young horses. It improved its buyer figure at least 5 points in every single race. We're getting a horse that looks good, improving, and a great price at 10-to-1. Chasing Freedom, the number 4. And if you're looking for even more value with an underdog, take a look at Honor Marie. I think this horse will end up in the money. I'm Cam Stewart. Enjoy the Kentucky Derby. Now back to you, Craig. Let's make some cash.
All right, thanks very much, Cam. And, of course, our coverage of the Kentucky Derby. We got it for you tomorrow all day right here on SportsGrid. Can't wait to watch the Run for the Roses just before 7 o'clock Eastern from Churchill Downs tomorrow night. We'll take a quick time out here on the show. Matthew Waters joins us from Legal Sports Report right after the break.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I kind of go back and forth with where all of this should land on the PGA Tour. I think individual 72 holes is what I really like for professional golf, for big-time events.
Like, we're going to make this all about teams. We're going to have home games, and you know, that's going to be the focus of this competition. I don't think that works if you have guys that are still trying to play at the highest level on an individual front.
Only on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily, at plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. If I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, I would have really figured it would have been the other way around. But the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access. Only on SportsGrid.
They have a former executive that they claim was stealing proprietary information from them and passing it along. Initially, it looks like DraftKings is on the right side of this.
They're really heated about what they said, that he left the company right before the Super Bowl, allegedly took all this confidential information with him about the most important customers, the bettors that spend the most with the company.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Matthew Waters is with us. He's ready for a summer of Philadelphia Phillies baseball because his 76ers got eliminated yesterday. But Matthew, it's okay, man. I mean, more time, to spend with the family and going on trips. I mean, you really didn't need to be watching 76ers games in May and Memorial Day in June, right? I mean, this gives you more time.
I was hurting enough, Craig, and now you're just really piling on. It's it is what it is, but yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, somebody I'm looking at right now on this show did pile on when the Phillies beat the Marlins in the playoffs. I don't know who that could have been. Maybe it was Michael Cohen. I don't remember. But anyway, let's get to our stories here. It wasn't you. Probably shorter hair you had at the time, by the way. Let's go to Legal Sports Report and talk a little bit about the latest on some of these earnings calls. We'll start off with Rush Street Interactive and a surprising result here, I think, for Bet Rivers. Tell us more.
Bet Rivers did great. Rush Street did great. They reported great earnings. They raised their adjusted EBITDA guidance. I mean, it went every way it was supposed to go for Bet Rivers, which is, you don't always know with Bet Rivers because they are one of those companies that is comfortable with keeping their market share smaller, right? They're just not interested in trying to market and promo the same way the bigger guys do. And so they take their little slice of each market that they're in and they work as hard as they can to make it profitable. And they did a fantastic job of that in the first quarter. Now, the most interesting part about this Rush Street call, if you remember a couple weeks ago, we had a report from Bloomberg that not only was Rush Street available to be bought, but that they were pitching themselves to DraftKings. Now, they are a publicly traded company, so management is always limited in what they can say, especially when it comes to something like this. But it was notable that the CEO, Richard Schwartz, he didn't deny that was happening. He noted, as substantial shareholders ourselves, meaning the management team, he said, we're fully aligned with shareholders. We are always looking to make shareholder value, and we will continue to evaluate all opportunities. He was also asked why not just open up like a formal process if you're thinking about selling yourself. And he said, I can't respond to that question in a public setting. So there are things going on behind the scenes over at Bet Rivers. And look, putting out these great numbers, it only helps, right? Delaware is turning into a bigger market than they thought it could be. They're getting more out of their parlay product than they originally thought they could. So Bet Rivers is in a great place right now, and their stock is up, which is terrific if they're thinking about getting bought, because they really were undervalued for a little while, and they probably still are a little undervalued now, but the stock is finally up, and things are looking pretty positive for Rush Street right now. Now, I don't know who is going to be involved in buying them. We talked before. I think if DraftKings bought them, it might be a little redundant. Maybe they would buy them to get the database and keep it from someone else. I don't know. But we're going to be keeping an eye on Rush Street and seeing what happens. They're definitely an attractive target right now.
Yeah. Investors probably feeling pretty good about getting that quarterly report. On the flip side, Penn teams up with ESPN Bet. The ads ensue. ESPN says all the right things about their quarterly report, but the data shows different. So what's the disconnect here? Is this just false optimism?
Craig, I'm not sure. And it's so easy to say, it was the first full quarter of earnings. And, in a year from now, we could be laughing about this report. But in a year from now, we could also be saying, oh my God, how'd it get worse? It just is surprising what Penn reported yesterday. They marketed more than they wanted to. They had to spend more than they wanted to, and they didn't get anything for it. I mean, they have more players, but they lost wallet share. And Penn can say as much as they want that it's all the parlay product, and maybe it is all the parlay product. We don't know. But it's interesting because when you look at some of these hold percentages, the Masters, March Madness, Super Bowl, none of those really went great for anybody. But DraftKings, they still closed the quarter with a 9.5% hold. ESPN Bet had a 4.4% hold. So it shows how these parlay products can definitely help give you a stable foundation when it comes to the big swings like this. But man, I just don't know about ESPN Bet at this point, Craig. This is not what we wanted to see for sure. And now Penn stock is at its lowest point since right when the COVID-19 closure started happening. So it's not looking great for Penn. What the tough part is for Penn, Craig, is that it's not easy to guide on what your marketing costs are going to be and what you may lose, because marketing is something that you have to be dynamic with. You have to be able to shift when you see an opportunity. You should be pulling back when it gets a little too expensive. And I saw one of the analysts, he put it perfectly. He said, this is difficult to do. Not sure why they're giving this, because they gave guidance for the second quarter too. So now we have another target to watch for Penn, that if they miss, it's just going to be more people upset, wondering what's happening. So yeah, we're only a couple months into it now for ESPN Bet, Craig, but it's tough sledding out there for Penn, and I don't know exactly how it turns around. We have to give them more time, of course. Definitely have to give them more time, especially if the tech team is saying, look, once we get these parlays up and going, and once we get some integration with the ESPN app, until we see all of that, and until we see it fail, we can't say that it's failed, but not great coming out of the gate here, Craig.
Yeah, and I would say that you're right. More time is needed for this, but again, football season is coming, and they're going to have to show some success during that time. I mean, because then there'll be no excuse. Speaking of which, the story of the spring, probably the story of the summer, would be state by state, each legislative group taking a look at things and saying, hey, look, college football is coming. Do we want to allow people to bet on props from our student athletes? I think that's the next story here, Matt, for the next 3-4 months, is to state by state who allows it, who doesn't. There has not been a state to come out and say we want to keep it, and now we have another state saying we want to bid it farewell. Which one is this?
Yeah, this is North Carolina, and it's interesting, Craig, because obviously if they wanted to do this, they could have done it earlier in the year when these things were being talked about and they were still crafting regulations and whatnot. But what's interesting about this bill that was filed in North Carolina, I'm not sure if there is a disconnect, or if maybe the sponsor just wants to go heavier than other states. But this wouldn't just be banning player props in North Carolina. It would be banning all college props. So there would be no, H1 over betting, nothing like that. And that's interesting because you do see some states saying, we don't want to take any bets on what an individual player might do. And you can even stretch that argument to say, well, okay, we don't want to take bets on what, the over on the passing yards might be, because that comes down to one player, the quarterback. I can understand that too. But once you start taking out, first half overs and that kind of stuff, that seems unnecessary to me. And again, I don't know if maybe it was just a misunderstanding from the people in North Carolina. I'm not sure. Now, we don't think the bill is going to pass anyway. It's a Democratic bill. It doesn't have the support of Republicans in North Carolina. But yeah, we're going to see more of this. We're going to hear more about this. Ohio already said they're not going to do it. Louisiana said they're not going to do it. So we have more states coming out and saying no more college player props. And look, they were proven to be a small part of the market. Ohio said it was like 1 point something %. So it's not huge at the end of the day. But Craig, we have to remember that if there are people that want to bet these and it's not available in the legal states, they're still going to bet them. They're just going to go offshore.
Yeah, no, and that's really the key, to keep it safe, but at the same time, figuring out maybe some happy medium here. All right, Matt, great to catch up with you. Thanks for coming on Newswire. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, sir. Take care.
All right, Simon Applebaum is in studio next, a recap of the NFL draft and what the coverage will look like of the Run for the Roses tomorrow late afternoon. We'll be back with more Newswire on SportsGrid right after this quick break with Simon Applebaum. We'll be right back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I kind of go back and forth with where all of this should land on the PGA Tour. I think individual 72 holes is what I really like for professional golf, for big-time events.
Like, we're going to make this all about teams. We're going to have home games, and that's going to be the focus of this competition. I don't think that works if you have guys that are still trying to play at the highest level on an individual front.
Only on SportsGrid.
Drysdale could easily, at plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing. I would have really figured it would have been the other way around, but the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access, only on SportsGrid.
They have a former executive that they claim was stealing proprietary information from them and passing it along. Initially, it looks like DraftKings is on the right side of this.
They're really heated about what they said, that he left the company right before the Super Bowl, allegedly took all this confidential information with him about the most important customers, the bettors that spend the most with the company.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Newswire. Time to dive into the latest ratings, numbers, streaming options, and sports betting possibilities with Simon Applebaum. He is in the studio today here on this Friday. You can listen to his podcast tomorrow. Will be televised, and Simon's going to weigh in on the NFL on today, a new look for them, the Run for the Roses tomorrow, and also recap some ratings. Simon, thanks for coming on Newswire. Great to see you.
You too, Craig. Great with you on a Friday. And I got to tell you, everybody here in New York is buzzing about what the Knicks did last night. And already they're saying, bring on the Celtics. Not just bring on the Pacers, bring on the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Final. The Pacers are going to give them a lot of trouble, especially the bench, which scored 40 points last night to propel them over the Bucks. By the way, spectacular call by Ian Eagle, not just on last night's game on TNT, but the entire Knicks series. Really, with the 76ers. Really sensational work.
Simon, let's get started and recap the NFL draft, which obviously is getting bigger and bigger each year. To see those pictures and video and streaming video of all those fans in Detroit showing up on site was something I have never seen for the NFL draft. But in terms of the ratings, people watching, TV, digital, what did the numbers say after the 3-day event was over?
Mixed picture, Craig. Round one, terrific. 12.1 million viewers, and that's across ABC, ESPN, NFL Network, ESPN Deportes, etc. That's up 6% from last year. That's the good news. Not so great news is that the 3-day numbers, that's the average, was down. Not by much, 5.7 million. And again, that's across ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, Deportes, etc., and NFL Network. That's just 200,000 down from last year. It's down 3%. However, what the NFL might want to look at with ESPN is how do you make Friday night and especially Saturday afternoon, that's 12 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. How do you make them more attractive to viewers? Because those are the later rounds, and given the first round was all about the quarterback, particularly 6 quarterbacks in the first 15 picks, and there was not much storyline afterward. That's probably why, for example, ABC had like 1.5 million viewers on Saturday, ESPN 1.2 million viewers, and the NFL Network has just not even 500,000 people watching on Saturday. So Friday and Saturday is something that perhaps the NFL and ESPN have to work on. Remember what I said last week, that next year is the final year in the current contract for ABC and ESPN with the NFL. And don't be surprised if the NFL, be given the fact that, as you said, there was this incredible atmosphere in Detroit last week for the draft, which really become, as I said, the Lollapalooza, the Coachella of off-season sports events, whether a Netflix, a Prime Video, a Disney Plus, a Peacock, etc., decides to go after coverage.
Yeah, I think they're going to get outbid. I think we're going to see the draft in a new home. It's just my opinion, my prediction. Okay, I could not have predicted this. The NFL today has decided to change things up with a new group. And look, listen, they've done this before. Fox has been pretty much standard with the same group for a long time. I know they've added pieces to the puzzle, Strahan several years ago. But man, I mean, Phil Simms has either been a broadcaster on CBS or a studio host as long as I can ever remember watching football. He is no longer part of it. Boomer Esiason, it feels like he works like 10 days a week if there's 10 days available. He used to do those shows too. He is out as well. Matt Ryan will move in. So what is the reasoning behind this?
It seems like this is the first move, Craig, of the new CBS Sports chief executive, David Burson. He was president of CBS Sports for 10 years, with Sean McManus leaving after the Masters in that role. Now he becomes the CEO, and this is his first major move. Some people are suggesting it might be an age deal. You know, Boomer Esiason is in his 60s, so is Phil Simms. Esiason, don't forget, while he is leaving the NFL today, he will stay with WFAN. He just signed a new contract with them to be with Boomer and Gio, the morning show, which will, by the way, continue to be on CBS Sports Network. Simms is really kind of crazy. You know, when he became the co-host of the NFL Today, a lot of people thought it was a demotion because, remember, he was the #1 game analyst with Jim Nantz before that, Greg Gumbel. So it's very interesting that Simms was able to reinvent himself as a co-host or co-analyst. I think the interesting thing is Matt Ryan coming in after just 1 year as the former Atlanta Falcons quarterback, as both a game analyst on regional coverage for most of the regular season. Then he became a NFL Today special host during the playoffs that CBS decided, okay, let's bring him aboard to join Nate Burleson, J.J. Watt, and Bill Cowher. Incidentally, James Brown, who, by the way, will be doing the Sports Emmy Awards, will be hosting that in a couple of weeks here in New York. He will continue as the host of the NFL Today, and he's in his 70s. So while some people might think this is an age issue, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just Burson coming in saying it's time to shake things up.
Yeah, no, we've seen this happen before. I mean, Dan Marino was on CBS. I mean, I guess the fair question to ask is not necessarily about age, Simon. It's just the fact that people watching the streaming options, you know, or watching streaming this, have they ever watched Boomer Esiason play football or Phil Simms play football? And if the answer is no, maybe that does make more sense. But I grew up with them, and I'll miss them, no doubt. Kentucky Derby tomorrow, Simon. Give us all the different ways you can watch the most exciting 2 minutes in sports.
Well, the big way is simulcast on NBC and Peacock. They're doing 5 hours. That's right, 5 hours of the Derby from 2:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I know 5 hours is really should be that adequate to do it. But this may be the year that the Kentucky Derby finally gets better ratings in recent years. Why? Because, as was mentioned earlier with Cam, the 20-horse field, the fact that everybody's still hoping for a Triple Crown winner, and it's like decades since, it's about time. And also, in addition to NBC and Peacock simulcasting, you've got YouTube, you've got other ways as well. But I think we're all going to see whether or not 5 hours of the Kentucky Derby, given the fact that the race is only like 2 minutes and it's on, as it was mentioned, before 7 o'clock, whether you can hold the audience. But it's got a fair chance given the 20-horse field.
Yeah, and let's finally end on this, and we got about a minute to go, Simon. The NBA could potentially be leaving TNT. There's been a lot of discussion about that. I'm sure you've seen in media this week, Charles Barkley's future as well. Do you think inevitably it is NBC that picks up the contract? It's still not done yet.
It's looking more and more that way. We're hearing that NBC is prepared to spend $2.5 billion, that's B as in billion dollars, a year for the next NBA contract. And there's even some scuttlebutt that they're already talking to John Tesh about reviving his famed NBA on NBC Music. So they are very big. And don't forget, this is not just an NBC deal, it's an NBC Peacock deal. And if they do get this deal, look for Peacock to get exclusive games, regular season and maybe playoffs.
Could be. All right, Simon, great to see you. Thanks for coming into the studio again. We'll catch up again next week.
You're welcome, Craig. Take care. Have a super weekend.
All right, Simon Applebaum of the podcast tomorrow will be televised. We'll wrap it up coming up next, talk a little bit about Jalen Brunson's performance and a historic day for the grandson of a Hall of Famer. Don't go away.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
I kind of go back and forth with where all of this should land on the PGA Tour. I think individual 72 holes is what I really like for professional golf, for big-time events.
Like, we're going to make this all about teams. We're going to have home games, and you know, that's going to be the focus of this competition. I don't think that works if you have guys that are still trying to play at the highest level on an individual front.
Only on SportsGrid.
Draisaitl could easily, at plus money, get the first goal, the second goal, the fourth goal. There's a few guys here. Maybe the prop betting market is not a bad way to look here.
Clippers over the Mavericks. If I would have told you that score before the game, knowing that Kawhi Leonard wasn't playing, I would have really figured it would have been the other way around. But the NBA is just crazy.
In-game live, all access. Only on SportsGrid.
They have a former executive that they claim was stealing proprietary information from them and passing it along. Initially, it looks like DraftKings is on the right side of this.
They're really heated about what they said, that he left the company right before the Super Bowl, allegedly took all this confidential information with him about the most important customers, the bettors that spend the most with the company.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire on SportsGrid, folks. We're 5 minutes away from an incredible show coming up very soon, so stay with us here on SportsGrid. As soon as we're off the air, you can relive the excitement in Singapore. Tune into the Live post-round show for highlights and insights. That's today at noon. It's the round 1 postgame show. Also tonight at midnight is the round 2 pregame show. And this weekend, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern, is the round 2 postgame show. Naturally, they're playing Live Golf this weekend in Singapore, so the time change is factoring into some of our pre and postgame programming, but that is coming up right here for you in less than 7 minutes from now. Check out Live Golf right here on SportsGrid. All right. Historic performance, to say the least, for Jalen Brunson. Reminiscent of, yes, Michael Jordan. Incredible performances. Here are the last 4 games of the series that Brunson played. 39 points, 47 points, 40 points, and 41 points. Michael Jordan, the last player to score 39-plus points in 4 straight playoff games. And if you go through the history of the National Basketball Association, I mean, we're talking about, listen, before I was even watching the NBA, of like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar going for Lou Alcindor at the time, going from Milwaukee to the Los Angeles Lakers. You're talking about Shaquille O'Neal going to the Miami Heat, or even going to the Lakers at the time, winning championships with LA, winning a championship. LeBron James, wherever he went. Kevin Garnett goes to Boston. They win a championship. I mean, that's what's next here for Jalen Brunson? He's had that kind of impact with the New York Knicks. We'll see as they continue in the NBA playoffs. Meanwhile, the season is over for the Milwaukee Bucks, and Patrick Beverley's season is not going to start on time next year. I can almost assure you of that. He got into an altercation last night with an Indiana Pacers fan sitting courtside, frustrated with the loss, of course, 120-98. I get that, but with 2 minutes and 32 seconds to play, cameras showed the Bucks bench and the guard throwing a basketball into the section of Pacers fans. A Pacers fan caught the basketball, then he threw it back and hit somebody in the head, and it hit a spectator in the stands. Teammates jumped in, they intervened and pulled the guard away before Beverley went back and returned to his seat. But needless to say, I don't even know the precedent for this sort of thing in the NBA, but I can tell you that going into next season, Patrick Beverley's not going to be on the court for game 1. I would doubt he would be there for game 2, game 3, or game 4. I mean, I don't know what kind of suspension you get for this sort of thing, but if they're going to set some sort of precedent as to throwing basketballs at fans, then this is going to be lengthy. I'm not going to, basically say what he should get, but I would guess it's got to be 10 games or more for doing that. Unacceptable. And by the way, post-game, not speaking to a reporter because they don't listen to your podcast and admitting that in the post-game, strange behavior from this player yesterday. All right, nothing strange yesterday, just very emotional watching Mike Yastrzemski of the San Francisco Giants, who played at Fenway Park for the second time, which is, of course, where his grandfather, Carl Yastrzemski, played ball many years ago. Wouldn't you know, second time he appears in Fenway, second time he ends up hitting a home run. And by the way, Carl Yastrzemski was in the house and even caught up with Little Yaz, pregame, to give him a little pep talk. You could see after he hit the home run, all of his family was there, and certainly a very emotional moment to see this. And the Yastrzemski name, I mean, believe it or not, Yastrzemski was cut by the Baltimore Orioles before he ended up back in San Francisco and has carved out a nice little career for himself, may I add, as well. Congrats to Yaz for hitting the home run in front of his grandfather and in front of his family as well. As I mentioned, coming up next right here on SportsGrid, we've got Live Golf coverage post-game from Singapore, so make sure you stay tuned. It's less than 5 minutes away. Everything that's happening at the Live Golf Tour, you can get all your coverage coming up right here exclusively on SportsGrid in less than 5 minutes, so keep it right here. Also want to thank all of our guests this week for coming on the show. In addition, thanks to our associate producer, Frank, and our producer, Michael Cohen. Our guests today on the show were Matthew Waters from Legal Sports Report, Davis Mattek of SportsGrid, and, of course, great guests talking plenty of sports all the time here on the show, not to mention Simon Applebaum of the podcast Tomorrow Will Be Televised. Next time you'll see me is tomorrow morning on Fantasy Sports Today. We'll talk some fantasy baseball, recap the draft, and maybe I'll give out a Kentucky Derby pick. I hope you enjoy the weekend. Coming up on Monday, we've got our next edition of NewsWire, so naturally we'll dive into round 2 of the NBA playoffs, round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and get you ready for all of the baseball action throughout the week. Immediately after we're done, as I mentioned, we got Live Golf. That's followed by, we've got Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast, 3 o'clock Eastern, Game Time Decisions, In-Game Live, getting you ready for everything going on tonight. And catch our coverage this weekend of the Run for the Roses. That is tomorrow here on SportsGrid, 6 p.m. Eastern. Race goes off 6:57 Eastern. Good luck with all your bets. Have a good weekend. See you tomorrow or Monday.